A scream pierces the night. A flash of steel. Horses panic. Men scatter. Chaos everywhere. No one knows where it came from. The ground trembles beneath 1,000 feet. Shouts echo then vanish. Something moves in the shadows. Faster than thought. Silent but deadly. Weapons clash. The air is thick with fear. A trumpet sounds, but it's too late. Some run. Some fall. Some never existed beyond this moment. A shadow sweeps across the battlefield. It swallows men whole. And in the distance, a banner rises. No one recognizes it. No one dares approach. But all eyes are drawn to it. What is coming? Who will survive? Will anyone ever understand what just happened? A cold wind carries whispers. The sound of impossible numbers marching. The smell of sweat and iron. A fear so deep, it lingers in bones. And then silence. Absolute silence. But the question remains. Who will live to tell this story? It is the year 1396. Europe trembles on the edge of war. The Crusades, a series of holy wars that have raged for centuries, are nearing their end. Christian knights, driven by faith and vengeance, gather from across the continent. They seek to strike at a rising threat that has grown quietly in the east. The battlefield is near Nicopolis, a city perched on the Danube River. Strategically, it is crucial. Control here means access to the Balkans and the route to Constantinople. Merchants, soldiers, and civilians all sense the tension in the air. But no one can predict the storm about to descend. The Ottomans, a rising power under Sultan Bayezid I, are gathering forces. Whispers travel along trade routes, 20,000 men, disciplined and ruthless, waiting silently. Europe's crusaders, however, underestimate them. They see their numbers but not their speed. They see their armor but not their cunning. Fear mixes with hope. Knights polish their swords, sharpen their lances, and rehearse their formations. Campfires burn through the night, reflecting in wary eyes. Yet behind the confident speeches and the banners of noble houses, anxiety spreads. Rumors circulate of scouts vanishing without a trace. The river currents run faster than usual. The wind seems to carry faint echoes of drums far away, yet unmistakable. Despite preparation, a sense of dread lingers. Each leader wonders, will strategy and valor be enough? Or is something approaching that even the bravest cannot face? Europe hopes. The Ottomans plan. And the land itself waits, silent and patient. Among the crusaders, a young knight named Guillaume rides nervously. He has trained since childhood, every day in sun and rain, mastering the sword, the lance, and the discipline of a warrior. His mornings begin before dawn, stretching, drills, prayers. Meals are simple, often bread and meat, eaten in silence. Mistakes are punished, not harshly at first, but repeated failure earns scars, both physical and in reputation. Guillaume's unit is elite, chosen for loyalty and skill. They move in perfect formation, every command answered without hesitation. Their armor shines under the rising sun, their banners fluttering in the wind. Yet in quiet moments, even the strongest men show fear. He has seen comrades fall during training accidents. He has seen tempers snap and men disappear from camp. And still, each day, he rises, polishing his blade, checking his horse, readying himself for battle. The other knights in the crusade are equally prepared, but each carries his own doubts. Some pray constantly, muttering to saints whose names they barely know. Others sharpen their blades with a tension that seems unnatural, as if the metal itself can cut their anxiety away. Whispers of Ottoman strength circulate, but no one wants to admit fear openly. Guillaume looks toward the horizon every evening. He watches the river bend, The hills rise, imagining the enemy advancing. He feels a weight in his chest, a premonition he cannot name. Yet he focuses on routine, believing discipline can hold back what is unknown. Camaraderie exists, yes. Laughter, shared meals, stories of distant lands. But beneath it all, the shadow of something unseen grows. The men train, they pray, they wait. And each heartbeat carries the silent question, will they survive what is coming? The days leading up to the battle carry a strange, unsettling rhythm. The crusaders notice it first in the mornings. Mist clings to the river like a living thing, rolling across the hills in thick gray waves. It's heavier than usual, cold and damp, as if the air itself carries a warning. Horses are restless. Even the most seasoned knights whisper that something is off, though none dare speak too loudly. The wind moves against them, carrying sounds that do not belong to this world. The distant clash of metal that stops abruptly, the echo of voices with no source. Messengers sent to scout the surrounding hills return slower than expected. Some never return at all, and those who do appear pale, haunted, muttering in strange rhythms or repeating phrases that make no sense. They speak of shadows moving in impossible ways, of flickering lights across the river at night, of a cold that cuts deeper than steel. Guillaume notices the first real sign of unease during one evening inspection. The sentries along the riverbank vanish from their posts for minutes at a time. When they return, they avoid eye contact, shoulders tight, faces drained of color. Something passed through the trees, they say, something fast, something that should not exist. The commanders shrug it off, yet the unease settles like a stone in Guillaume's chest. The nights grow longer, not in hours but in dread. Campfires flare, casting flickering shadows across the faces of men who can no longer laugh freely. Horses whinny and stamp in panic. Drums, which should have been silent, sometimes sound in the distance, soft, irregular, echoing across the hills. No one claims to have started them. No one admits to hearing them first. The sound comes and goes like a ghost. Even the animals react strangely. Dogs bark at unseen figures. Crows gather above the forest edges, black masses that move with uncanny coordination, silent but watchful. Fish jump from the river without reason. A raven lands on Guillaume's shoulder one morning, eyes piercing, and stays long enough to unsettle him completely before flying off silently. Communication falters. Orders sent along the chain of command go unanswered, delayed, or returned with messages that make no sense. Scouts report trails that appear and vanish, as if men walked and then never existed. Maps are redrawn repeatedly, yet each version fails to explain the sudden gaps in intelligence. Rumors begin to spread. Perhaps spies are moving unseen. Perhaps the enemy scouts are more cunning than anyone imagined. But even those who believe this do not sleep easy. Small signs pile upon each other. A flag that falls without wind, a river that swells and recedes overnight, distant voices heard through fog. The crusaders joke about superstition, but the laughter is weak, brittle, and fleeting. Each knight feels it, a quiet tension in their muscles, a tightness behind the eyes, a warning they cannot name. Guillaume senses it more than most. He feels a weight on the horizon, a pressure in the air that makes each step toward the battlefield feel heavier. He dreams of shadows moving across the hills, of banners torn apart by unseen hands, of an army swallowed whole in an instant. Each morning he wakes and checks his sword, then his armor, then the horizon, hoping the feeling will have passed. It never does. By the final night before the battle, the tension becomes almost unbearable. Silence dominates the camp. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. The usual chatter, the clanging of armor, the laughter and curses, all of it is gone. Men pace in the darkness, whispers bouncing off the tents like echoes from another world. Something is coming, they know. Something no formation, no training, no strategy can truly prepare them for. And then just before dawn, a horn sounds far across the valley. Not a warning, not a signal, something else entirely. It is long, low, haunting, vibrating in the chest, fatting, then returning as if mocking the crusaders' readiness. No one can identify its source. No one dares investigate. The horn dies away, leaving a silence so absolute it feels alive, pressing down on Guillaume, on the horses, on every man in the camp. Something waits, something that cannot be fought with courage or steel alone. And Guillaume wonders, for the first time without hope. Are we already too late? Dawn breaks over the hills, but the light brings no comfort. Mist still hangs low over the Danube, swirling around the crusaders' tents. Guillaume grips his sword, heart pounding, scanning the horizon. The banners of noble houses flap silently. The air is thick, heavy with anticipation, fear, and something unspoken. Then it begins. A distant drumbeat rises from the mist. Slow at first, hesitant. But it grows steady, relentless. Guillaume's stomach twists. The sound is unnatural, impossible to ignore. The knights glance at one another, confusion spreading faster than the beat itself. Orders are shouted, commands clash. The soldiers, disciplined formations, falter under the weight of uncertainty. A figure appears on a hill, then vanishes. Another, then another. They move faster than eyes can follow, appearing and disappearing like shadows. Guillaume tries to hold formation, shouting to his comrades, but some are already turning, others frozen. The ground vibrates with thousands of unseen feet. The first wave hits, and it is not what anyone expected. Not a charge, not a clash. A ripple of movement, precise, silent, and unstoppable. Knights swing swords, horses rear, and yet nothing lands where it should. A banner falls, a trumpet sounds, then is swallowed by the mist. Shouts echo, confusion spreads like fire. Guillaume spins on his horse. Men are everywhere and nowhere. Some run in circles, lost in the fog of chaos. Others vanish from view mid-step, leaving only empty ground behind. The riverbank trembles, as if the earth itself is shifting under unseen weight. Orders continue, shouted over the din. But commands collide. Messages are ignored, misheard, lost. A soldier charges where he should hold. Another holds where he should advance. Time stretches strangely. Moments feel eternal, yet vanish in a heartbeat. Guillaume hears footsteps behind him. Too many to count. He turns. Shadows pass through the camp without touching the ground. The mist clings to armor, wrapping men in gray, bending light and reality. Horses neigh, panic rising, slipping on the churned earth. A horn sounds again, low, haunting, vibrating through bones. It calls men forward, backward, nowhere. The crusaders respond instinctively, but every instinct fails. Lines collapse, cavalry scatters. Foot soldiers stumble into one another, into mud, into the unknown. Guillaume swings at a figure that seems solid one moment, gone the next. The clash of steel is deafening, yet there is no sense of impact. The air is filled with confusion. Shouts, hooves, the metallic ring of weapons striking, nothing tangible. Dust and fog obscure everything. The battlefield becomes a blur of gray, white, and movement. The Ottomans' numbers seem impossible. Guillaume counts again, 20,000 more. They strike where no road exists, where no path should allow men to pass. Crusaders find themselves flanked from impossible angles, surrounded without warning. Panic spreads faster than logic. Time fractures. Guillaume moves, then stops, unsure if seconds or hours have passed. A banner drifts down a hill alone, no soldiers beneath it. Horses wander aimlessly, whinnying, kicking at invisible foes. Some men freeze mid-step, eyes wide, then stumble as if reality itself shifts beneath them. Then suddenly the chaos fades. Noise drops. Horses whinny once and go silent. Shouts die in throats. The mist rolls back, revealing a battlefield stripped of its occupants. Guillaume looks around. No enemy lines remain. No allies stand. Banners lie in the dirt, armor scattered but no bodies. The river moves quietly, indifferent. The world holds its breath. Only Guillaume remains, or is he alone? A shadow passes over him, a whisper of movement and then nothing. The battlefield is empty. Time resumes. Silence dominates. And the question lingers, heavy and impossible. What just happened here? The sun rises over Nicopolis, but the battlefield is eerily silent. Not a sound, not a movement, only the soft ripple of the Danube. Commanders move cautiously among the tents, faces tight, voices hushed. Reports from the morning are incomplete, scattered and contradictory. Some claim the crusaders were wiped out. Others insist whole units vanished without a fight. No one agrees. No one can confirm what truly happened. Orders are issued for a full sweep. Scouts and small units fan out across the hills and forests, weapons ready, eyes straining through mist and trees. They find nothing. No bodies, no camps, no signs of struggle. A horse here, a piece of armor there, abandoned as if men simply disappeared into thin air. Maps are redrawn again and again, yet each attempt fails to clarify what occurred. Guillaume rides among the search parties, heart heavy. He questions survivors, those who claim to have fled the chaos, but each account is different. Some speak of shadows moving like men, others of figures vanishing mid-charge. No one can describe the Ottomans, numbers, formation, or strategy with certainty. Some accounts suggest impossibilities, lines of soldiers appearing where no path exists, attacks from impossible angles. Interrogations begin. Officers question each other. Men are asked to repeat orders and movements, but confusion reigns. Records contradict reports. Logs claim units marched to one location, yet eyewitnesses swear they never left the other side of the battlefield. Some scribes note names of missing men, then erase them in subsequent drafts. Pages are burned, reports lost, letters vanish from archives. Rumors spread through camps and towns. Soldiers return changed, silent, or missing entirely. Whispers tell of witnesses being silenced, threatened, or moved elsewhere. Some commanders insist they saw nothing unusual. Others confess they can't explain what happened. Every record hints at something beyond comprehension, yet none admits it openly. The river is searched meticulously. Boats glide over currents, nets drag along the depths. Nothing. No trace of men, weapons, or bodies. Even animals avoid the water, a silence unlike any natural hesitation. The forest is scoured with torches and axes, yet only empty paths remain. Official reports are filed, carefully vague. The language is neutral, factual, detached, but contradictions abound. Units engage the enemy in one version. In another, they retreated after encountering unknown forces. Casualty numbers fluctuate wildly. Some letters hint at panic, confusion, and impossible events, but these are marked, classified, or erased entirely from the archives. Meanwhile, Guillaume and a handful of officers notice subtle signs of a deliberate cover-up. Maps are missing pages, orders have vanished. Scouts' journals contain passages crossed out, rewritten, or burned. The Ottomans are reported with minimal losses, but numbers conflict. The official narrative makes sense on paper, but no one who witnessed the event can reconcile it with reality. Even years later, historians find holes in the records. Letters disappear, files are sealed, and eyewitness accounts are fragmented. Some claim entire regiments simply vanished, yet no explanation survives. Others whisper of secret reports filed in Istanbul, inaccessible to European archives. Every search, every investigation, seems to confirm the same terrifying reality. The event cannot be fully explained. Something happened at Nicopolis that defies logic, strategy, and reason. And someone, somewhere, decided that the full truth was too dangerous to reveal. Guillaume rides the empty battlefield at sunset. The mist curls over the ground like fingers, brushing abandoned banners and scattered armor. The silence presses down, heavier than any enemy. No one can answer his questions. No report can capture the chaos, the fear, the impossible disappearance of men he trained beside. And yet one thought gnaws at him, relentless. If the Ottomans did not leave the way they appeared, and the crusaders vanished as if swallowed by the earth, then who decides what the world is allowed to know? The battlefield holds its secrets tightly, and the searchers leave with more questions than answers. The battlefield at Nicopolis had been swept clean, yet the questions refused to disappear. Who or what caused 20,000 crusaders to vanish almost overnight? What explanation could reconcile the chaos, the fear, the impossible numbers, and the silence of the river and hills? Historians, scribes, and eyewitnesses have offered theories. None are conclusive. Some accounts suggest that the crusaders were betrayed by spies embedded within their ranks. Perhaps someone revealed the positions, the formations, even the timing of the attack. It could explain how the Ottomans moved with such precision and struck in places no one expected. But records of these alleged spies have vanished. Names erased, letters burned, even whispered testimonies disappear from archives. Could such a conspiracy exist, yet leave no evidence behind? Or is this simply the world grasping for a human explanation where none fits? Other stories hint at something beyond human understanding. Knights reported shadows moving like men, drums sounding without origin, and figures appearing and vanishing mid-charge. Some scribes wrote of fog that behaved as if alive, bending the battlefield, confusing sight and sound. These accounts were often dismissed as superstition, until pages detailing them were crossed out or classified in secret files. If the event was indeed supernatural, who decided the truth should never be recorded? And how could human armies, no matter their skill, disappear so completely if ordinary forces were at play? A simpler, more conventional explanation is that the Ottomans executed a plan of extraordinary precision. They may have studied the crusaders' movements, exploited terrain, and struck with timing and tactics that seemed impossible to the untrained eye. Yet even this theory is fraught with contradiction. Reports of the battle are inconsistent, numbers of men and formations differ wildly, and eyewitness accounts describe attacks from impossible angles. Could human strategy alone account for entire units vanishing in plain sight? Or did the planners have knowledge or resources that remain hidden in sealed archives? Some scholars propose that fear, panic, and miscommunication alone caused the collapse. The crusaders, inexperienced in coordination across so many contingents, may have succumbed to confusion amplified by environmental factors, fog, river currents, and terrain. But if this were true, how do we explain the absolute disappearance of soldiers, banners, and cavalry? Why are reports missing, censored, or contradictory? Even chaos cannot erase hundreds, perhaps thousands, of men so completely, without leaving traceable evidence. Each theory carries weight, yet each also leaves doubt. Documents vanish. Witnesses are silenced or forgotten. Eyewitness journals, once considered reliable, are missing pages or marked classified. Some records were deliberately altered decades later, leaving future historians grasping at fragments. And therein lies the haunting truth. The real story may be known by no one alive today. Perhaps it was erased to preserve political alliances. Perhaps the Ottomans themselves kept records hidden in distant archives. Or perhaps the event was so extraordinary, so beyond comprehension, that no one could face the truth. Guillaume, if he had survived, would have found no comfort in any theory. Every explanation opens new questions. Every attempt to clarify only deepens the mystery. The battlefield holds its secrets still, locked in shadows, whispers, and mist. In the end, the theories provoke one unsettling realization. History may not have failed to record the truth, it may have deliberately buried it. And some witnesses may have been silenced, not by the enemy, but by those who believed the world could not handle what had occurred. Nicopolis is more than a battle, it is a puzzle, a haunting question left for generations. And the real answer? It is still out there, hidden, erased, and waiting to be imagined. Which theory do you believe? Was it betrayal, supernatural forces, sheer genius, or chaos beyond control? Or is the truth something no one can ever know? Comment below with your thoughts, because some mysteries are meant to be debated forever. The battlefield of Nicopolis lies silent. The river moves steadily, indifferent to the carnage that once swept its banks, to the shouts, the fear, the chaos that erupted and vanished in the mist. The hills rise around it, green and serene, yet they carry the echoes of a day long past, a day when men fought and vanished, and the earth itself seemed to swallow their courage, their armor, their lives. The banners that once marked the units of Europe's finest knights rot slowly in the grass, torn by the wind, clawed by animals, fatting into the soil as if the land itself demanded that their memory be muted. Armor lies scattered in the mud, rusting, dented, a testament to preparation and discipline that proved insufficient against forces unseen, against timing and precision that no human mind could predict. History remembers fragments, pieces of a puzzle that no one alive today can fully reconstruct. Letters were burned, scribes, manuscripts disappeared, and official reports were deliberately vague, leaving centuries of scholars grasping for answers that may never exist. Eyewitnesses vanish from the records entirely. Some were silenced, others may have fled, haunted, unwilling to speak of what they saw. Files, if they ever existed, are sealed in distant archives, inaccessible to even the most diligent researcher. A pattern emerges in the surviving records. Contradictions abound, numbers fluctuate, and the simplest details, the location of a regiment, the timing of a charge, the number of casualties, cannot be agreed upon. And yet, amidst the fragments, the truth glimmers, tantalizing and distant. It is there, obscured, deliberately buried beneath layers of silence and secrecy. No one knows exactly how 20,000 Ottomans moved, struck, and destroyed the last crusade with such precision and speed. Entire units vanished, soldiers disappearing as if swallowed by the earth itself. Even those who survived, the lucky few, the witnesses, tell stories so contradictory that they confuse as much as they illuminate. One man claims to have seen banners torn and dropped, yet the soldiers themselves nowhere in sight. Another swears he watched a wave of cavalry sweep across the hills, but no marks remained on the ground. The battlefield offers no answers, only questions. The questions linger, pressing against the mind, demanding answers, yet eluding every attempt at comprehension. Perhaps the truth was too terrifying to record. Perhaps those who survived understood that the world could not bear it. Perhaps the event at Nicopolis was so extraordinary, so beyond the grasp of ordinary experience, that chroniclers, scribes, and leaders made a conscious choice: erase it. Or perhaps it was lost to time, swallowed by fog, river, and shadow, leaving only whispers, fragments, and the occasional rumor that refuses to die. The psychological aftermath of Nicopolis is itself a haunting story. Soldiers who fled carried with them fear that could not be articulated. Their nightmares were filled with shadows that moved in impossible ways, with sounds that had no source, with whispers that echoed from the hills even in the dead of night. Horses, sensitive to the unseen, refused to move in certain directions, their riders convinced that unseen eyes watched them. Even in cities far from the battlefield, rumors circulated of men who had returned from the Danube gaunt, silent, and starring, forever changed. Communities that had sent sons and brothers to the crusade were left with empty lists, missing names, letters that never arrived, and whispers of impossible deaths. Political consequences followed closely behind the psychological ones. The loss at Nicopolis was not merely a military disaster, It destabilized alliances, shifted power, and reshaped the balance between East and West. Kings and nobles struggled to explain the defeat. Diplomats attempted to smooth relations, to find scapegoats, to maintain the image of strength and control. Yet beneath the surface, panic lingered. Europe's understanding of the Ottoman military threat was forever altered. Its perception of the East as a distant, controllable force shattered by a moment whose reality could not be fully reconciled. Stories began to grow, myth intertwining with memory. Folklore enveloped the battlefield. Some spoke of ghostly figures, knights of light or shadow, who guided or destroyed armies as though the war had been choreographed by something greater than men. Others whispered of unnatural weather, of fog that moved with intelligence, of the river itself rising and receding at impossible times. Legends claimed that men who ventured too close to the battlefield after the fact would vanish without trace. Over time, these stories were collected in chronicles, in poetry, in the hushed conversations of travelers and monks. Each retelling added layers, some deliberate, some accidental, creating a tapestry of fear, awe, and mystery that ensured Nicopolis could never be forgotten, even if the truth remained elusive. Yet even these stories are imperfect. Each is colored by fear, imagination, and the desire to make sense of the senseless. Historians who later tried to reconcile records found discrepancies so extreme that they could not determine fact from embellishment. Numbers were inflated, sequences altered, and outcomes softened or intensified depending on the writer's allegiance. Some accounts claim the crusaders were annihilated, others claim entire units vanished in moments, still others claim that a sudden storm or natural phenomenon caused confusion and chaos. No evidence fully supports any of these interpretations. The more scholars searched, the more contradictions emerged. Every new discovery seemed to deepen the mystery. Guillaume's fear, if he survived, would be a microcosm of this chaos. His personal experience, the vanished banners, the impossible movements of men and cavalry, the whispers of shadows in the fog, all remained lodged in memory and imagination. It is the human experience of Nicopolis that haunts the historical record. Every story that survived carries a weight of uncertainty. Every fragment evokes the terror of a day when the rules of war, of logic, of nature seemed suspended. The battlefield did not merely claim soldiers, it claimed certainty itself. It left a void where comprehension should have been. The mystery of Nicopolis challenges the very act of storytelling. How do we narrate events for which no coherent narrative survives? How do we communicate chaos that defies every known law of human behavior? Some theories persist: betrayal, supernatural interference, military genius, complete chaos, but none fully satisfy, and in their failure they deepen the haunting. The truth becomes a mirror, reflecting not merely history, but our limitations in understanding, in imagining, in facing what we cannot explain. The battlefield may have ended, the men may have disappeared, but the question remains alive, pressing, insistent, unresolved. Nicopolis is no longer merely a historical event. It is a lens through which the human mind contemplates fear, mortality, power, and mystery. It is a reminder that some events escape the neat confines of record, that some truths are too vast, too strange, too unsettling to be fully captured. It is a testament to the unknowable, to the gaps between action and perception, between fact and memory, between history and legend. And so, we are left with one final, chilling question. What really happened at Nicopolis, and why has no one ever told the full story? The answers are gone, or perhaps they were never meant to be found. Even centuries later, scholars debate, writers speculate, travelers whisper, and the river flows indifferent over the bones and banners, over the silence that envelops the hills, carrying the memory of a day that no one could ever fully comprehend, a day whose questions endure, eternal, pressing against the imagination of all who dare to wonder. Nicopolis survives not in victory or defeat, but in the haunting of what cannot be explained. And the story, incomplete though it may be, continues to demand attention, reflection, and speculation. Because some mysteries are not just history, they are invitations. Invitations to wonder, to fear, to question the limits of knowledge and imagination, and to confront the impossible.